The following podcast is a Jill Devine Media production.
Christianity has become known for judgy people, strange words, ancient stories, confusing rules, and a members-only mindset. This is why I stayed away from the church for so long, but it's not supposed to be that way. I'm Jill Devine, a former radio personality with 3 tattoos, a love for a good tequila, and who's never read the entire Bible. Yet, here I am hosting a podcast about faith. The Normal Goes a Long Way podcast is your home for real conversations with real people using real language about how faith and real life intersect. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to this week's conversation. I'm your host, Jill Devine, and I've talked about this a little bit on this podcast, but I am a host of another podcast. It's called 2 Kids and a Career. And over the last couple of years, I noticed that some of the guests that I've talked to on 2 Kids and a Career would be great to have on this podcast. And the first person that came to mind was Brandon Janous. So I interviewed Brandon Janous on my other podcast on February 24th, 2021. And so many of the things that he said in that conversation, I thought the listeners of Normal Goes a Long Way, they have to hear his story. They have to hear about Rachel. They have to know what is happening in that family. And since that conversation in 2021, some really cool stuff has happened with Brandon and his family, including a book deal, which in order to understand the book deal, the new book that he wrote, you have to hear the conversation that we had first. So I wanted to introduce you to Brandon Janous, and this 2-part episode is going to be a conversation that I had with Brandon in 2021. And then you're going to get to hear the conversation that I had present day with Brandon about his new book. So let's jump into that conversation, the one from 2021, with Brandon Janous talking about what he does for a living.
So I have a subscription box company. We own a few different subscription boxes, a couple faith-based subscription boxes, and also have a brand called Fan Box, where we are kind of the turnkey spot for any influencer or brand who would like to start a subscription box. So we do different boxes for those that would like to be in that category.
And subscription boxes are definitely taking off, and I think probably even more so because of the pandemic. Would you agree with that?
You are 100% correct. And I hate to say that. I hate to say that business is good when business is so bad in so many places. But we have definitely hit a chord with people that are sitting at home and they're still spending money in some cases, and we're able to deliver boxes right to their door. So I hate to say it's been good for our business, but things have really we've been really staying busy. Let's put it that way.
Well, I did not ask you to come on the podcast to talk about the business. I did actually say to you when we were emailing, I wanted to learn more about the faith-inspired subscription boxes because it is something that is becoming a little bit more relevant in my life. And maybe it's something we could talk about. I don't know, but it's not really what I want to talk to you about. And I just want to introduce how we got introduced. And it's just, again, social media is so crazy. You can either love it or hate it or be in the middle. It kind of depends on the day. But I wanted to share a little bit with you on what I kind of know and what basically how this all started. So let's first go back to, I got a message from a mutual friend of ours. His name is John, and he had sent me a message on Instagram because I do this thing called the Supermom Shoutout. And I started this because it was just like, man, there are women out there who are not getting recognized. Like, they just you need to be seen, you need to be supported. That's all it is. Just, hey, tell me a super mom in your life and let's just give her a shout out. And so he sent me a message and he's like, hey, I think this is kind of ironic that you do this super mom shout out. And one of my friends is getting this super dad shout out. And so he sent me this post on, I'll read it from you on Instagram. And it says, so we did this thing and they even put us on TV for it. One of the biggest things I wanted to do for the kids after Rachel passed away was to give them super cool experiences and to make sure that we didn't take a single day for granted. So we built a skate ramp and an A-frame clubhouse in my sister's backyard, because that seems like a pretty cool way to grow up to me. And because my kids are so dang cool, they put us on TV. The show is called Super Dad, but it shouldn't be. They are the real MVPs, and I'm just lucky to get to be daddy to them each and every day. So you can find it on Discovery Plus. You get a 7-day free trial, and you should check it out when you get a chance. And so all of a sudden, I started obviously clicking on it and going, oh my gosh. So I told this to our mutual friend, John, but I did not tell this to you. And tell me if this is correct. When your wife passed away, and it was March 2020, I started seeing mutual friends of ours sharing the details about her death. And is it true that the recommendation for when you all did get together to celebrate her life, did you ask that everybody wear concert tees and comfy pants because that's what she would want?
Yes, that's
Oh
true.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, she
So
didn't want it to be stuffy. She didn't want it to be all dressy. She wanted it to be super casual, and that was her style. And so she got her wish for sure.
Well, I immediately, obviously, I connected as a mom and just my heart dropped when I read this, but it's been a joke in our family. I'm like, okay, I don't know yet what we're going to do, but if I am going to be in a casket, you better be putting my Adidas pants on and my comfy shirts and just, I want to be comfy. Let's just make it comfy. So I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I started looking more into her story. And I mean, oh, I know that this is not easy and it's a beautiful story too, but in preparation for the interview, because I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure that this is the guy and the family. And then I started doing some research and I stopped because I didn't want to read or listen to your story with anyone else. I wanted to just hear it so naturally from you and organic. So I don't know much except for Rachel had a 2-year battle with cancer and, like I said, lost her life in March of last year. So it's now on you, Brandon. I've talked way too much already.
No, well, you're right. We had a 2-year battle with breast cancer. She had was in remission for about 3 months. We thought we were good. We thought we had beat it. We did everything right, and then it ended up coming back in her spine, August of 19, and then it continued to progress into her spinal fluid and then into her brain in January of last year, so about a year ago, and that's when we knew that things were not getting better, and it was such an interesting time. And I say interesting because most people don't get, and I hate to call it a luxury, but the luxury of knowing when you're going to be gone. And when you do get to prepare. And Rachel, that's all she set out to do those last few months, was prepare us for life after Rachel, prepare me, prepare the kids, prepare all those that were around us. It was the most selfless act I've ever witnessed in my life, to worry none about her and all about us. And, most people would, start checking things off their bucket list, right? That's what you do when you know you're going to die. And that was not what she did. She checked things off a to-do list to make sure that we were okay. And, I don't want to say it made it easy, because it's far from easy. And being a single dad to 3 kids during a pandemic is not the easiest thing in the world. But man, she sure did allow it to be much easier than it ever should have been. And it taught me that I don't know what tomorrow holds, nor do you, nor does any of the listeners. And we need to make sure that we prepare others well. Because again, you nailed it. The concert tees. I didn't know she wanted concert tees at her memorial. I didn't know these things, right? But she was able to tell me what she wanted. She was able to pick songs for her playlist at her memorial or celebration. She was able to talk about the candy bar that she wanted for the kids. In the back of the room, she was able to talk about who she wanted to sing and who she wanted to speak and what she wanted them to talk about. And so things that I didn't have to think about. So it was all done. We call it that time. There was so much beauty in the brokenness. It was such a hard time. We spent 39 nights in the hospital before she passed away. People from all over the world came to say goodbye to Rachel, but they left inspired. They left ministered to. They left feeling better than when they entered, for sure. Rachel, I had a front row seat for 39 nights to watch Rachel lead people to Jesus, to watch her share so much good in a world that is so broken. And when she could have felt defeated and she could have just felt beat down and given up, she never did. And it was the most beautiful time. And unless you were there, you just can't understand. Because I was literally watching my wife die every day. But I was also watching her give so much life to so many people throughout that process. And it's just something I'll never forget.
Like you said, I wasn't there, so I don't understand. And I have so many questions. But before we get to the kiddos, tell me how you met Rachel.
Yeah, so I met her through some mutual friends in college. She went to University of Nebraska. I went to Mizzou, and I had some fraternity brothers that went to high school with her, and met her on a flag football trip. Believe it or not, that we took to Nebraska. And one of my buddies on the way there, he said, "You're gonna fall for her." And I wasn't in a position to fall, and nor did I want to fall. You're right, and it took me 10 years to convince her to date me and to eventually marry me, but I finally figured it out, and it happened, and so yeah, it was just a mutual friends connection that led to 10 years of me chasing her, and her finally saying yes, and then she passed away 13 days before our 10th year anniversary.
You have 3 kids. I know that you have 2 daughters and a boy. Can you tell me their names and their ages?
Yeah, so Hadley is my oldest. She's 9. And then Cooper is my middle girl, and she's 8. And then Macklin's my little guy, and he is 6.
I think the thing that I struggle with the most when you were talking about, like, as a mom, how do you prepare to say goodbye to your kids? Like, and knowing that we were going to have this conversation, there have been many times, because I knew she, was battling. I saw the pictures on social media when she got to go outside, because she wasn't really allowed to, right?
Yeah.
Or okay, and like she knew and you knew, but I look at my girls and I think to myself, how do you? How?
So that's a really good question and a hard thing to speak on. So one of the things that Rachel and I decided early on, before she got really sick, I mean, just when she first got cancer, was we talked, okay, are we openly public about this or are we private? And there's no right or wrong. So many people keep this close to home and they don't talk about it. And we decided for a couple of reasons early on, we were going to share it and be open with our kids. We decided, one, that we wanted people to pray for us. And the more people that could know about it, we believe in the power of prayer, the better. So if we shared our story, people were going to pray, and that mattered. And two, awareness for women. Rachel was super healthy, and 2.5 years ago, or I guess 3.5 years ago now, there was no sign of any issues. Rachel ate well. She was in great shape. She took very good care of herself. There was no reason in the world for it to be her, but it happened. And so we want people to understand that it can happen, and detection matters, and to make sure you are going to your appointments and you are doing your checkups. And I've gotten hundreds of messages from women that I don't know saying they have, done their mammogram and they've done these things because of Rachel. So it worked. But the other thing was I never wanted to whisper around the kids. We were always open with mommy's surgeries and the different things that was going to happen. But I knew also I had to be honest because my girls are going to be teenagers soon. And if they can't trust me now, how are they going to trust me then? And I needed them to be able to know that daddy was telling them the truth. And if when it got bad, I remember having this conversation with Rachel when we knew we were in the hospital and she wasn't going to come out, barring a miracle. And I remember telling her, I need to tell the kids that mommy's going to go home and be with Jesus. And I remember dreading that conversation because it was going to be the hardest conversation in the world. When daddy comes home, that means mommy's at home with Jesus, because I was in the hospital too. And so her parents were staying here and they didn't have either parent. And so they knew that was the sign. When daddy came home, that means mommy went home, and mommy has no more pain, and mommy has no more appointments, and she has no more uncertainty, and she is healed. She's healed in heaven. And then daddy gets to come home and be daddy again. And so, again, the reason I had to tell them this is because I needed them to trust me. If I'd have kept saying, mommy's going to get better, mommy's going to get better, mommy's going to get better, and then she didn't, how are they ever going to trust me in anything I say to them again? And so I sat them down in the lobby of the hospital a few weeks before Rachel passed. And the doctors had told us there's just nothing more we can do. And I just sat them down and I told them that. I said, guys, medically, there's just nothing more the doctors can do. And mommy's not hurting because, she's got great medicine and, she's feeling good. But there's just nothing they can do to stop the cancer. And we're going to keep praying about it and we're going to keep hoping. But, there's a really good chance that mommy's going to get to go see Jesus soon. And that daddy's going to get to come home. And we all cried and we all hugged. And, they continued to come see mommy every day and hug on her and love her. And I don't think they ever said bye. I mean, they say bye every time they leave, but I don't think they had that final goodbye, which was okay with us. But I came home the day she passed, March 1st of last year. And I got home that night about 9:00, went into my girls' room and gave them a kiss. And they said, mommy went to see Jesus. I said, that's right. That's right. And I went in and talked to my little man and woke him up and just gave him a kiss and said, you're home. You're home, daddy. I said, I'm home. So mommy's with Jesus. Yeah, mommy's with Jesus now. And so that's how the conversation went. And there's hard days, there's hard moments. They all still sleep on my floor every night, and I'm never going to stop that until they want to. I think being honest and transparent made the transition from her life on earth to her life in heaven, so much easier. That it wasn't a surprise. Daddy didn't lie about anything, and we were in it together. And we're doing life together now, and we trust each other, and we're walking through it, and we're struggling through it, and we're stumbling through it. But we're a team, and I love my team, and I'm blessed to have, the team that I have as we work through this.
How are they today?
Gosh, good question. Yeah. So my little man, Macklin, was a mama's boy, and, he was only 5 when she passed. So half his life, Rachel was sick. And so he was just used to laying next to mommy in bed. And, just knowing that mommy was probably not going to be up a bunch. And so that was kind of the life he was used to. So he's still a snuggler and a cuddler. And I've kind of taken that place for her. My oldest has probably taken it, I don't want to say the hardest, but she internalizes things a lot more. So she's been, in therapy, which is helping a lot for her. My middle child doesn't internalize things, talks about everything, and she just she knows mommy's in heaven, and she's happy with that, and that's how we're going to be. And all in all, kids are so dang resilient, and I honestly don't even know if they know that the year mark is coming up. Kids' time is so different than our time. I mean, this has been 1/5 of Macklin's life this last year, right? It's a big chunk of his life. So I don't know if he feels like it's been years or months or weeks or days. I have no idea. And we talk about mommy every day, but we talk about happy things about mommy. We talk about, remember when mommy used to do this, or this was mommy's favorite food, or gosh, mommy cooks mac and cheese better than you do, daddy, or, all those kind of things. It's rarely a sad thing. And I welcome sad. I'm not saying crying and letting it go and all those things is bad. That's good. And so we, if it comes up and we have hard days, we talk about it. But more often than not, our memories of mommy are so happy and so joyful. And we know she doesn't hurt anymore. And we know she's healed, and we know she's watching over us, and we know all these things. So they're doing so well. And it's easy for me to say, but until people come see and experience them, everybody leaves and says, gosh, they're good. They're happy. They have so much joy. The reason is because of what Rachel did to prepare us and to let them know that mommy was going to be okay, because she was going to get to watch the Super Bowl with Jesus this year, and she was going to get to have dance parties in heaven. And so they know that mommy's healed, and mommy's good, and so they're good.
Okay, so we are going to end part 1 of this conversation with Brandon. We'll continue with part 2 next week. So I hope that you'll tune in. Here's a little preview of what you're going to hear.
Life is so dang short. 3.5 years ago, Rachel was perfectly healthy and there were no issues, and we were living our life and we were doing the best we could. And that changed. And then we had one focus for 2 years, was to keep Rachel alive. And what we learned during that time is that most things don't